Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Fandom Report. I'm your host, Catherine Mora, and I'm here joined again with the lovely Jess, aka Female Peter Parker.
Hello, hello. It's good to be
Hello.
back.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us again. How are you?
An emotional train wreck from the events of this movie.
Yep.
Just like,
Yep. That was rough. It was very rough. Yes.
yeah.
So just to make sure
Yes.
everybody's aware, because this is a really big movie, there will be a ton of spoilers in this episode of the podcast. So if you have not seen Spider-Man No Way Home yet, probably shouldn't watch this or listen to us just yet. Watch the movie, then come back. But yeah, so I'm just gonna go right off the bat to like one of the biggest things that upset me in this film, Aunt May.
Let's start with the
Let's start with the worst thing. That way we end on a happy note. Let's get the really horrible stuff out of the way first.
This is true. This is true. Oh,
Rip Aunt May.
dude, it happened. And I was like really hopeful that she was gonna be okay. Like she stood up and I was like, they're just playing us, it's fine. And then
Yeah.
as soon as she said the with great power comes great responsibility line, I was like, no.
Like, oh no.
Like they can't do it.
It's like the I've seen this film before and I didn't like the end.
Yes, and I didn't like the ending. Oh,
Yeah.
the thing with that too is like, I don't know if this happened with you, but when it was happening in the moment, it didn't really process for me that it was happening. Like I was like, they
Yes.
can't kill Aunt May. And then like I would get sad like randomly through the movie. Like it would be like a really random scene and I'd be like, oh my God, they killed Aunt May.
So this is just the way that I process like sad moments in movies and shows. Is that my brain immediately makes a joke. So when Aunt May dies, my brain, the first thing it did was go, "Oh my God, they killed Aunt May! You bastards!" Like the running joke from South Park. It's like, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny." I was like, "Oh God, this is not." No. So what you were saying about like how just random moments you would like get sad again, I feel like that was just like a running theme throughout the movie. Like things were happening and then they go to the next scene, but my brain is still processing what just happened in the last scene. Like, so it's like, wait, I can't focus on, like, can we hit pause or something, please? I can't focus on what's going on right now. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that you guys killed Aunt May, or that, Matt Murdock showed up, or, freaking the two original Spider-Men are here. Like, they just never slow down. This movie did not slow down once.
Which I think is what made it so like good too, was like you didn't have time to process it and they just kept throwing these things at you and you were like, whoa, like
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, no, that's literally how I felt with Aunt May's death though, because it was like so sad. And then they were arresting Happy.
I know.
And I was
Oh
like,
God.
what is going on? And then like 2 seconds later, Ned was like, let me just open up this portal and like bring in Andrew's Spider-Man. Like
Okay, no wait, but real quick, like Happy, like when he like pulled up like right then and there, and like he sees Peter, and like you realize the moment that he knows May's dead, and it's like,
yes,
and like
my heart.
I shipped Happy and May so much. So when it starts out, like the first time you see them in this movie, that like they're breaking up essentially, and Happy's so sad. I just wanted to give him a hug. And then Peter's there, like trying to like fix their relationship, even though his entire world is falling apart. Like there's this one line I vaguely remember him saying. He was like, "I thought he made you happy," or something like that, which is like, kind of funny because Happy making May
I
happy.
hope you're happy.
But yes, like, and that's like another thing too that makes like May's death so much sadder, is that like even when his identity was revealed and like everything's falling apart, in that moment he's like trying to figure out like what's going on, because he thought this was a relationship that made May happy, and her happiness like means so much to him. So when she's there, dying, and she's like, "I just need to catch my breath," he like almost like he doesn't even tell her like what's wrong. Like he doesn't want her to die like worried or scared.
I
Like
know.
that was
Oh my
something that
God,
like,
that hurt me
yeah,
so much. When he like picked his hand up and it was covered in her blood and she was
yeah,
like, what? And he was like, nothing's wrong. It's
Yeah.
just me and you. Like, oh my God,
Mhm.
that was the line that killed me. It was like, it's
Yeah.
just me and you. I was like, oh my God, oh my God.
And
That's
the
what
thing
made
is
me
because
start to cry.
it's always been them. Like, because the implication in this trilogy is like, Uncle Ben died like a year before Spider-Man Homecoming. So like
Mhm.
ever since him being Spider-Man, it's really just been him and May. Like, yes, Tony's there, but at the end of the day, Peter goes home to Aunt May. Like that's his guardian, that's his parent, his mom essentially.
Mhm.
And it just it hurts so much. Like, doesn't he also say like I'm sorry to her like as she's dying or after she died? I
I think so. I
Yeah.
can't. I have to re. I'm gonna go rewatch it,
Yes,
but like, I
it's
just
definitely a
again
movie
like
that
still
needs.
processing it all. Like,
I
whoa.
know. I
But
know.
oh gosh, I know. I just my heart breaks for him, especially with like the ending. Like he
Yeah.
literally has no
No
one.
one.
He has nobody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And he's not even like a legal adult. Like this poor kid.
I know. Oh my God. I know. Like, so he starts the movie's like it's the summer, like right after his junior year. So he's gonna be a senior, he's applying to colleges and everything. And that was like another little detail I noticed too, that's like at the end when he moves into that apartment, you see like the books for him to study for the GED. So it's like he doesn't
Yeah.
even get to graduate from high school, which means like he's gonna have a harder time like getting into college. Cause like I just statistically speaking, like with a GED, it's harder to get into like, an MIT, for example. Which was like
Yes.
another little detail, like him wanting to go to MIT. I was like, Tony.
If Tony was here, he would have been like, I literally can hear him in my head be like, oh no, 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 no. I'm calling them right now. Like,
Yes. Yes. Like, just honestly, like this, so many problems could have been avoided if Tony was still alive, but we I feel like that's a lot of pain that we don't need to go into. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, the ending, I will say this for like, especially like the last shot that they used, it reminded me a lot of the first Spider-Man trilogy and the Amazing Spider-Man trilogy, that they always kind of end with that, Spider-Man swinging through the city.
I
And
was thinking
that's
that too.
something, yeah, that's something that, the Tom Holland trilogy hasn't really done. And it'll be interesting, like if Amy Pascal, who said that she wants to do another Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland, if she gets her way, if since nobody knows who Peter Parker is anymore, that means he has no real connection to the Avengers. At least I think there's still a lot of questions about how that spell really works. But so that means if he has no connection to the Avengers, he's going to go back to like being ground level, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So how he exists in this world of the MCU where everything's like, it feels like with every single project, every single movie, the stakes are just getting bigger and bigger, how he'll still fit into this world. I don't,
Yeah, I've been thinking that too. And I feel like they could go a few ways with this. The first is this is Sony's way of taking back the character and just yanking him from the MCU altogether,
mm-hmm.
which kind of sad about that if that's the route that they decide to go.
Yeah,
I really hope they don't do that though. I feel like a lot of fans would be kind of upset about that. So I guess we'll see
yeah.
kind of where they go. I've also like I was talking about this with my dad last night because he saw the movie and I saw the movie and then we called and talked about it. And he
Mm-hmm.
was mentioning like what you had said about the spell, like, is it only affecting people on Earth? Because like that
Right.
leaves out Captain Marvel, Thor, Nick
The
Fury, if he's
Guardians.
like, yeah, the
Yeah.
Guardians, like they all would like if it didn't hit them, they'd all remember him, you know?
Right.
Um, and then they also have that Fantastic Four movie that they're working on. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they like, I know that like Spider-Man shows up with the Fantastic Four all the time in the comics. So I
Yeah,
like wouldn't be surprised if he makes appearances in that movie. Like I
that's
would
true.
not, because I think they were talking about having him show up in future movies, but like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like confirmed. It was like more of like a in talks kind of thing.
Right.
So that would be so interesting if they did that. But
And now that you mentioned that, that would be a good way to like find the balance between like what Tom Holland was implying, that he doesn't know if he wants to do another trilogy, and Amy Pascal's obvious desire to do another trilogy. I felt that would be like a easy balance for like these two very different desires in terms of like Spider-Man in the MCU. So yeah, him doing almost like how Natasha had like a feature role in Captain America the Winter Soldier, like him having a feature role on the side of like, you know, another hero or something. And yeah, especially if he is going to be kind of like ground level, just kind of sticking to New York. You know, the Fantastic Four, they're based in New York. If they're the ones who end up buying Avengers Tower, you know, they have their home base right there in the city. Knowing now that, you know, Daredevil, Matt Murdock is confirmed in the MCU, he's in New York. Like if they team up somewhere down the line, there's also the question if like Marvel's going to reboot or, you know, recast the other Defenders into the MCU. That's another team that he's, you know, associated with in the comics sometimes. So I don't know, his future is it's a little uncertain. And it it's a very bittersweet ending. Like if that's where they leave off on, like, you know, that he's still out there, you know, being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, still helping people and everything, but he's all alone.
yeah, it
He's
was
all
very
alone.
heart-wrenching, and like, yeah, it
Mhm.
was so good. But I just, you know, like, I feel like we've become so attached to Peter and his relationship with Happy and May and
Yeah.
MJ and Ned, and then it just kind of felt like they took the rug and were like, nope. And I was
Just
like,
kidding.
oh, but I love them. And like, we finally, after this long slow burn, got MJ and Peter together, and now she doesn't even remember him, and it's
I
so
know.
heartbreaking. Like,
Did you notice though, in that final coffee shop scene, she's still wearing the necklace?
yeah,
So it raises the question again, like how exactly does the spell affect the world or the universe at large, depending how far the spell was going? Like you were saying, like she has the necklace. Does she not question like, oh, where did this come from? Like, because she doesn't know
right.
Peter Parker. Peter Parker never gave that to her as far as she's concerned.
I've been trying to figure that out too. Like in her brain, is it just like, oh, Spider-Man saved me and he gave me this cool like thing, like, you know,
Yeah.
like in her brain she's probably just like, it's a gift from Spider-Man. Like how when Peter was at May's grave and Happy was
Yes.
like, how did you meet her? And they both said, she was like, yeah, I knew her through Spider-Man too. It's like,
Right.
but then it makes me wonder like how Happy like that whole like Civil War and stuff, like he was just like going to pick up this spider kid, and like I'm just picturing Peter in the back of the car with like the mask on the whole time,
Yes,
and he's
the
like, what are we
whole
doing,
time
where are we going, what's going on? Like,
filming his vlog, but he's like in the
he's
mask
like
the
fully
entire time.
exactly. Oh my god.
Yeah. I know it's a really good question, because clearly the world still knows who Spider-Man is.
Mhm.
Like the fact that Spider-Man exists, not like who his identity is. And just like, because it's clearly not like It's a Wonderful Life, where he just erased from existence, and like it does like, you know, oh, what's the term that they used in Loki, where the timeline like branches off.
Oh my gosh,
I forget what it's like, and it's not like a nexus point. I think that's
I
the
think
term we're looking for.
yeah, Nexus sounds right.
um that, you know, it's not like Strange completely erased his existence, therefore like changing everybody's life. Like, you know, people died, didn't die, like everything seems to be pretty much the same, um except for MIT, with Ned and MJ saying that they got in. So either like they got in because they weren't associated with Peter Parker, or they got in because of the conversation that Peter had with the dean on the bridge, that
Yeah,
they
which
were
then
like, we're
raises
gonna,
the whole question, like
yeah,
she wouldn't remember Peter then. That's
unless,
like
yeah,
so
it's like, where how exactly
what's the
does this work?
line? Like,
What's the
exactly.
logic? Yeah. Yeah, but then also, does like, do you did the spell also affect Toby and Andrew's Spider-Man? Because
I
even though
was
they're not
wondering
from that
that
world.
too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, because
so confusing. But I
I
think it's meant to be that way because they'll probably, I have a feeling looking at that second post-credit scene with the Multiverse of Madness trailer,
Yes.
like it seems like it directly derives from the spell that Strange casted with Peter. Like he mentions, like we had to do it, there was no other way. And like I'm sure that he doesn't, like obviously he doesn't remember Peter, but I'm sure he remembers like we had to do this. I don't remember why, but there was reason and blah 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 blah. So that was the other thing was the spell, like will Wanda remember Peter? Because if she's a Nexus being, will it affect her at all? Like
that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
It's like hang on a second.
Wait a second. Yeah, because okay, she's met Peter outside of the mask, like in that brief moment where it, like the girl power scene in Endgame. She's like one of the first women who show up, who's like, she says like don't worry, and then Okoye says she has help, so she's seen Peter without his mask. I don't know how well she knows like who he is and everything, but like I mean, yeah, especially because like they've basically confirmed that she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, which is so funny to me that Strange lost that title on a technicality.
And he just like, my other favorite was he came back and he didn't even try to fight Wong for it. He was just like, okay,
okay, fine.
He's like, I'm too tired of this.
No, and we'll come back to like that in a little bit, but with Wanda, yeah, I mean, she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, she's more powerful than Doctor Strange, she's a Nexus being, so the whole concept is that she's like a constant throughout the multiverse. So I don't know, I wonder.
And like if you're looking at in terms of, I saw a meme about this and that's why I'm thinking about it right now, but like in terms of both of them, like they've both lost like everybody, they both have no one, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like this, I don't think they will, but it would be so cool if they had like a little like Wanda Spider-Man team up thing and they just like confided in each other about how awful their lives were and just were like, let's just team up and like do a thing, you know.
Oh, that would be both sad and adorable.
Yes.
TBH. Oh my God. Yeah, it's true. I love how Marvel started off the year with, here's a character who has lost everyone and everything, and we're going to process all of that grief, and ended the year with, oh, here's a character that you love, and we're going to make him lose everyone and everything. So now you get to process that grief.
The book ended.
Yes.
Like, and then in the middle, it was like, it was like super drama, and then Sam Bucky buddy cop show. And like
and Clint and Kate
being weird. Yeah.
Clint and Kate, you know, it's Christmas.
And Black Widow just like sister love forever. Like
yes. Oh my God. And then, you know, you have Shang-Chi and Katie doing karaoke.
Please. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh boy. I did see this one comment somewhere that, and so it makes, you know, it begs the question of like, where exactly does the Loki series like fall in the timeline? Someone was like, nobody noticed, like nobody in the TVA noticed that there were 3 Spider-Men in the same timeline, which then makes, because then when you think about going back to like Doctor Strange, his first movie, that the Ancient One's like talking about the multiverse, which according to the TVA and Loki shouldn't exist. But then in Spider-Man No Way Home, you know, Doctor Strange is saying, you know, we're bringing visitors from like an infinite number of universes who like know that you're Spider-Man. So it's like, then how does the whole thing with the TVA work? Like,
yeah,
where?
like I'm confused. I don't know if you felt this way either. By the way, I just want to say before I say this, I know that Catherine and I are nitpicking this a lot right now, but I like very much enjoyed the movie. Like it was
absolutely
up there in my favorite Marvel movies. This is just discussion. But anyway,
it's not even nitpicking. It's us just like trying to understand what's going on. Like we're just very invested in like just fully comprehending this movie, because no, it was an amazing movie.
It was so good. I mean, my next comment's kind of nitpicking.
Oh, okay.
But that's why I was prefacing it. But I don't know if you felt this way, but the scene where Strange was like, they're all coming through and I can't stop them, I felt was maybe just a little bit anticlimactic. Like,
Mhm.
I was like expecting this huge thing, and then they were just like, let's just close it. And they just like shut up. And I was like,
Okay.
wait a second. There were just people in the sky.
We're
And
seeing like their shapes and everything,
yeah, I'm
their
like,
forms.
hang on. Like I was waiting, I was ready for like this huge Spider-Man battle thing, and then it was just like, like and I feel
So
like they'll readdress it in like Multiverse of Madness. There's probably a good reason why they didn't do it, but I was just like, wait a second.
So no, I do agree with you, because thinking back to like pre-COVID when they announced, the phase 4 slate, WandaVision was supposed to come out like right before Multiverse of Madness. But
Mhm.
obviously, with COVID, that had to be rescheduled and everything. So then that leads us with Spider-Man No Way Home coming out, before Multiverse of Madness. These are the two, these projects, it's 1, 2. So I thought, okay, whatever happens in Spider-Man No Way Home, especially because they showed that scene in the trailer of Strange being like, they're coming through, I can't stop it. I thought we were going to get left on kind of like a cliffhanger that was going to lead directly into Multiverse of Madness.
That's what I was thinking
That,
too.
yeah. So I did
Like,
find it
nope,
very
let's just
strange.
bandage the
Let's just
bandage the ceiling of the world. Like
it's totally fine. We're just gonna give Peter Parker even more trauma. We're gonna solve this in like a really simple, like almost too simple kind of way. Because when Peter was like, "Can't you just cast the original spell?" and Strange was like, "It's too late." So then Peter's like, "Oh, well then cast this other spell so that everybody forgets me." I'm like, how does one work but not the other? Why is it too late for that spell, for like the original spell, but not this new one?
and also
Like,
why couldn't Strange just quickly be like, everyone except MJ and Ned, here you go. Like that was the other thing that upset me. I'm like, if you have time to cast the spell anyways, and it takes you 2 seconds to add a whole other ring, then just do
yeah,
it.
just do
Like,
it.
like
That's it. It no, I agree. It was very anticlimactic, like especially after the whole, the three Spider-Men fighting on the Statue of Liberty, and then Peter's showdown with Norman Osborn, like, and then you see, oh, like it's not over. You see all the rifts in the sky and everything, and like you're saying, we're seeing these people, and it's just like, no, we got it. It's fine. Just
it's
gonna.
okay.
It's like you just grab a broom and just brush it away.
And you're like, we'll deal with this in
Just,
Multiverse of Madness.
yeah,
Like
maybe.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was like one of my only issues with the movie.
Same.
But that last battle, that final battle though.
Yeah, it was good. I loved the scene where they were talking on the bridge, like when they were waiting for all the villains to show up, and they were
Yes.
like, hey, stop it with the negative self-talk. You're amazing. You're amazing. You are amazing.
Tobey being, so the first of all, the youth pastor joke, I was like dying. And Tobey being like
So funny.
like the encouraging like older brother is like, no, you're amazing, you got to say it, you're not, this negative self-talk is like no good, you got to say it. But then Andrew being like, no, I hear what you're saying, I needed to hear that, thank you.
And then Andrew, I love you guys. And they're just like,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thank you. And then
No,
who's Peter 1? Who's Peter 2?
Peter too. I don't want to be Peter too.
I don't want to be
No.
Peter 2. Okay, well.
And then when Tom's Peter was like, I don't want to brag, but I worked with the Avengers.
And they're like, awesome. Is that a boy band?
It's like, that's amazing. What does that mean?
My favorite line in that whole thing though was when they were like, so who's the biggest bad guy you've ever fought? And Tom's Peter was like, I fought an alien in space and on Earth. He was purple. Like, it's just like, I love you.
It's like, and then Toby's like, wait, I'm still stuck on the part that you fought an alien in space.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, that's cool.
Meanwhile, Andrew's like, I'm lame. I fought a rhino. That's it.
Yeah, like the very tail end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. We don't even see the fight. He's just talking. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. It's their dynamic, like their interactions with each other was just so perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Like And I really love too, like when Tobey and Andrew see each other for the first time, that I feel like it was almost out of like Into the Spider-Verse, where they're like Spidey senses kind of tingling. They like register each other, but in, you know, this live action version, they're not sure if the other person is a threat or not. But then they do like the same exact flip. Like they do like the same exact motions to like attack each other or whatever. And I was like, this is so cool.
It was
like,
so
this is
awesome.
amazing.
I was thinking that with the spider sense thing too, like even in the scene where MJ was like, hey, like people are here for you, Peter, and they turn around and the two of them are up there, you can kind of see like Peter kind of be like he has that moment of like, I can sense something and it's really weird and not familiar, like, you know.
Yeah no, it's definitely, you know, there you could see the influence that Into the Spider-Verse had on this film.
Absolutely.
And but it wasn't enough that like it still feels like its own film, which is good. I know some people were worried about it being like too much Into the Spider-Verse. Sorry, I just thought of Electro being like, you know, you're from Queens and you help poor people. Like I just really thought you were black.
I was
gotta
just
be a black
about
spider.
to bring that up. Like I was like, okay, so you're definitely making a live action Miles Morales. Thanks for the tip.
Yes. Well, we know he exists in the MCU because of that deleted scene from Homecoming. Yeah, where his Uncle Aaron is on the phone's like, sorry, Miles, I'm gonna be late.
I just like am so I loved that. I was like, yes, get me Miles. I love him.
We want Miles.
We want Miles so bad.
I will say though, and I know this might be a little controversial, especially to people who like haven't seen the film yet. But for people who have seen the film, I think they'll probably agree. I'm actually glad that Miles wasn't brought in this movie because there was just so much going on in this film that he wouldn't have gotten enough time to like really justify having him there and like give him the storyline that he deserves. Nope, so I'm actually really happy that he wasn't in there. Like it would have been cool if they did like an after credit scene with Miles, like if it's like him getting bitten or something. And I almost wonder if that would be like the next step in the Spider-Man story, like where now Peter, because he's on his own, he's like, you know, he is Spider-Man now. Just, you know, the finally standing on his own 2 feet and everything. If now is the time to kind of position him in like a mentee relationship with a younger Miles.
And the mentee becomes a mentor.
The mentor. Yes.
Peter, wow, is this how Tony felt like all the time? This is hard.
Just stressed out about like a 14-year-old Miles Morales.
Yes. I know. Yes. Oh, yes. I will say it was cool to have all the villains back, but it was making me laugh that they set up this whole thing with, I know it's because they're probably planning a whole other movie with it, but they set up this whole thing with Venom only to have him as a post-credit scene in a bar. And then like, but this goes back to the questioning thing about the spell, because I was kind of confused with like, so they sent him back to his universe or whatever, but then how is that little piece of Venom able to stay if he was a part of him? Like I was just like, that's cool, but also there's a little plot hole there that I'm just kind of confused about. Like I just don't get it.
I almost wonder, and it's still a stretch because it doesn't like follow all of the supposed rules of the spell, if like it was a piece that like got separated from him, you know, because there was like a moment where he's there and then suddenly he stands up and he's like not in total control of himself. I wonder if there's a part of Venom that like separated in that moment for whatever reason. And so then when Eddie and Venom, like, you know, they disappear, if that piece of Venom that was left behind like gets hit by the spell and then like forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But again, it doesn't explain, like, you know, it's still part of Venom who knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So like, why was that piece still there? I don't know. It's
so I again, I think it's really cool that they're setting up a Venom and Spider-Man like duo film thing, like not complaining about that. I just like the logistics of it were just like, it's like the whole Avengers Endgame like time travel stuff again, like you're breaking your own rules, like like it was just weird, you know.
But well, So like, just speaking of like, the movies and their rules and like just like writing that like frustrates me. It just frustrates me so much that this whole thing, like none of the bad things that happened in this film would have happened if they just pressed the button.
Right?
If Peter,
Right.
like I get it, and that was the thing too. It's like if you think about it, technically, May dying was her own fault because Peter
Yeah.
was ready to like just send them all home, but then May gave him the whole speech over in the at the feast center, which then definitely influences Peter to like steal the cube from Doctor Strange so like they wouldn't die, and then that all basically all of that leading to Norman Osborn betraying them and killing May. And I'm like, oh my God, like what? Why?
You
And
could
then the
see
whole
it
thing, we
coming
can't
too, though.
we can't press the button. We can't, like, I get it. Everything really sucks right now, but we can't press that button. It's like, just push the button.
Yeah, it's like,
Just push
no.
the button.
It's like, take it off. I can't take it off. I can't.
It's just, it's
Yeah.
like one of those things that it's like, there's not really that good of a reason for characters not to do something that would solve all of their problems, but we're just gonna act like there
Yeah.
is.
Uh,
Again, I love this
yes.
movie. I
I
know
know.
I'm like
And
picking at it now.
yeah, it's
I
just
love
us
this
being
movie.
like,
It's just us trying to
no,
understand.
it's like yeah, no, it's the same way with like people who love event, like I loved Avengers Endgame, but there's still things that I'll be like, they could have done this and this a little differently, like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's it, it's gonna be like that for whatever Marvel project it is, like
Yeah.
people expect different things, or you hear different theories that you're like, this theory would have been better if it came out this way. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Oh my God, the movie was so good.
It's
Like,
so good. Like the moment where the three of them are all swinging together, like I lost my mind.
oh, I had chills. I
It was
literally, the hair on my arm stood up. I was like,
like it's happening.
yeah.
Like it
Like, oh my
was
God, they're little like, woo! Like,
because I found like somebody like filmed it in the theater, so I like screen recorded it because those theater filmings like always get taken down from the internet, so I like screen recorded it and I'm like watching it in slow motion. There's like a point where like I wasn't totally sure how it happened like while I'm watching the movie because it was so fast, but when you slow it down, there's like a point they're all swinging, and then Tom's Peter like lets go and then shoots two webs, one at Tobey and one at Andrew, and like propels them forward with his web
I
when
love
they're like
that.
going around the corner, and then he shoots another web to like follow after them. And I was like,
That's
this is
so
amazing.
cool.
This is amazing. It's so good.
Oh, I love them. Yeah, just it was so like it was so awesome.
It
It was
was.
so cool to see them like especially after everyone being like, are they going to be in it? Are they going to be in it?
Yes.
Like, is it like so when it actually happened, I was like, yeah, I don't know how your theater was, by the way. Mine was like things happened and it was just like people would just go and then it was quiet. In one sense, I was like, I'm kind of glad because I can hear what's going on. But in the other
Mhm.
sense, I was like, where's the come on, that's Andrew Garfield.
I
That's
know.
Tobey Maguire. Like,
So the only time, and this has happened to me like for the last few Marvel movies, and it's a little annoying because my movie experience with Infinity War was like the phenomenal. Like the audience reacted like perfect timing. Like they like people recognize like when the characters were talking, like, oh, we gotta shut up. Like, yeah, we're
yeah.
excited, but we gotta be quiet so we can hear what's going on. But everybody was cheering at the appropriate moments, and it was great. Then after that, like the audience is just like, we're not up, like just dead quiet. Like when I tell you dead quiet, like I'm talking about Captain America lifting Mjolnir and not a single clap or cheer in the room. So then of course you feel
Come
awkward. You don't want to
on.
be the only person making noise. So
Oh,
it's just very
that's
uncomfortable.
so frustrating.
But for No Way Home, the only time anybody like made noise in the movie was when Tobey Maguire showed up for the first time. He, he walked out of the portal and people were like, whoa, and that was it. I was like,
that was basically it for me too. I was like
yeah. But meanwhile, I'm in my seat with with my mom right next to me, and I see like Matt Murdock's walking stick like slam down, and I'm there like,
dude, I got so excited for you. Like that scene came on and I was like, I so wish I was watching this with Catherine right now, because just her reaction, I like could see you in my head like, like
he's here.
And his like brick catch, he was just like,
oh my god, the brick catch. Oh my god. I'm so happy. Like, even just that minor role that he had in the movie, just that one scene, like I'm still happy with it because it's confirmation that he is in the MCU. Like, yes. I know Kevin Feige like gave us confirmation, but he's like, if we see him, when we see it, we kind of knew that it was probably going to be a No Way Home, but actually being able to see him and he's there, and he's being Matt Murdock, but they give us a little bit of him being Daredevil with with catching the brick. And then I loved how Peter was like, how did you do that? And he's just like, I'm a very good lawyer.
I'm a very good lawyer.
Like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. And I'm pretty sure,
wow.
I'm pretty sure, because when he starts his scene, he's like on the phone and he's like, okay, great, thank you. I'm like 95% sure he's talking to Foggy on the other end, who's in the Netflix series, his partner, his business partner, lawyer partner. So I'm like, all right, give me my avocados at law. Give me Nelson and Murdoch, please.
Yes, you can tell they're definitely like, there's been so much fan like uproar and like getting him back and stuff, that I feel like they're like, this is definitely them being like, we hear you and we're working on it,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, especially
we're
with
thinking about it. Like,
yeah, I mean, especially with Vincent D'Onofrio, confirming him in episode 5 of Hawkeye, and then obviously he's going to be in episode 6 in the Hawkeye finale. So Daredevil fans really got fed.
Yes.
This week.
Yes.
Like within 48 hours, they're like, here's the big guy and here's your lawyer. Merry Christmas.
I was actually like, it was like a half expectation, if like I wasn't like super expecting it, but I was like curious if they were going to bring Kingpin into the new like No Way Home movie, since he technically is a Spider-Man villain. So yes. I was like, when we got that episode of Hawkeye this week, I was like, oh, I wonder that's why they like lined it up like this. Mm-hmm. But then it didn't end up being like, well, it might, like I feel like a lot of times things happen and then we like look back on them after having all the content and being like, oh, like that's this in this movie, like, so there could have been things that we may have missed that is like directly tied to that. But yeah, it's just interesting.
I mean, because it's funny that you say that, because in the very last scene of No Way Home, when he's swinging through, when Spider-Man's swinging through the city, he passes over Rockefeller Center and it's Christmas time. And from the Hawkeye trailer, we see that there's going to be a fight scene like at Rockefeller Center. There's like that whole scene where Kate and Clint are back to back and shooting their arrows. They're on the ice at Rockefeller Center. Like the tree is there. So I'm like, okay, is this because okay, hold on. I'm trying to think now the timeline. Hawkeye takes place 2 years after Endgame. Right?
Dude,
okay.
I swear to God, if Spider-Man shows up in the last episode of Hawkeye, I will literally lose my mind. Like
okay. Well, because now I'm wondering, like, is that the reason why they introduced Daredevil into like in Spider-Man No Way Home? Is it going to be like,
or he'll show up? Yeah,
if he'll show up, or if that's like because they made Spider-Man like like a ground level vigilante hero again, like if he and Daredevil are going to team up down the line at some point, if that's like going to be hinted at or revealed in Hawkeye episode 6, like I don't know.
I feel like they could like, yeah, like it definitely, there's got to be some little ties to like Hawkeye's next episode next week, and I'm curious, like like it would just, if Spider-Man showed up, I would cry. If it's very unlikely, but like,
I mean, imagine though if they start episode 6 with like J. Jonah Jameson doing his report about like Spider-Man, the report he did at the very end of the movie, like, you know, his whole spiel about Spider-Man, like he should reveal himself, blah 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 blah. Because then that'll confirm, like, because I'm
the
timeline, because if Hawkeye takes place 2 years after Endgame, I think Spider-Man only takes place 1 year after
You know what
Endgame.
else
I'm
is
not
interesting
sure.
though? I don't know if you noticed this, but at the end scene when it shows Aunt May's grave, they
Mhm.
purposefully had a flower covering the end of the year. You can see it's 2000 something, but you can't see the end of it. And I
Oh,
was like, I wonder why that is. Like, or if it was just the
yeah,
angle that they got. But I was like,
yeah.
that's interesting. Like,
That's
why did you
suspicious.
block the year off? Yeah, that's suspicious. That's weird. Like,
So I almost wonder now too if there's a bigger time jump between the last time Peter sees MJ and Ned to, you know, that him visiting Aunt May and swinging through the city and everything. Like if when I say the last time he sees them, like the last time he sees them in the coffee shop, because he goes to the
Mhm.
coffee shop, then he goes to the grave, I think that's
I
like the
think
correct
so.
order. Yeah, so I wonder if there's like a time jump there or something. I don't know. I have to see the movie again because
I need to watch it again. Yeah.
yeah.
But I just noticed that and I was kind of like, because I feel like with Natasha's, like they were very evident on like these were her dates and they
Yeah,
showed her gravestone and like May's was just kind of like
kind of covered.
there. So it
Yeah.
was like,
Hmm.
again, it could have just been like complete coincidence, but I also feel like Marvel is not like that. Like they
No.
purposefully do little things like that
Yeah.
to make us look. So
So the only thing I can think of, because if I'm doing math correctly, like the events of No Way Home take place in 2004, because Peter goes through his whole junior year again, so that takes up a year, then the summer. So it should take place like at the fall of 2004. But Hawkeye takes place, you know, Christmas and December 2005 or 2025. I think I'm saying wrong years.
I mean, you were saying
2000
2004. I was like,
2024. No, I'm sorry.
I was like, that's it before Iron Man.
2024. 2024. Spider-Man No Way Home, I believe, takes place in 2024. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just had a moment where I was like, Peter would be a literal
He would be
newborn.
a fetus.
Yeah.
Okay. Fall 2024, Spider-Man No Way Home. December 2025 is Hawkeye. So if there's like a time jump at some point, and I guess we'll have to wait and see for episode 6 of Hawkeye to come out, if he does tie into the show at all. I just found it very interesting how, you know, they decided to put the movie in between episodes 5 and 6, and the like one of the last shots in the movie is Spider-Man swinging right over Rockefeller Center, which is where like we're assuming the final battle of Hawkeye episode 6 is going to take place. It's just all very interesting timing, coincidences, like, and like you said, Marvel doesn't do that.
But now it makes me want to go back to that scene where he's listening to the police broadcast and
Right.
listen closer to what they're saying, because I feel like
Yeah.
maybe there's hints there.
That you're absolutely right.
Because
You're
I feel like
absolutely
me in the
right.
movies, I was just like, oh, it's a police scanner. That's cool. But
Yeah.
I feel like if we listened and we were like, there's gotta be something in there that'll tell us whether or not he's gonna be in this next episode. There has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
catch up. Like, I'm sure T has probably covered all of this, and I just have not
Probably.
watched any of them yet. Like, he had like a 7 or 8 part series he just posted yesterday. Like,
It just, yeah. And it goes back to what we were saying before, how your mind is still processing what just happened, but they're already moving on to like the next two scenes. So
yeah.
it's definitely a movie that you have to watch several times to catch everything. And yeah, you know, my wallet's gonna be hurting a little bit.
I know. I'm like literally like in my head right now, like, do I want to go and like see it again tonight? Like, do I want to go
like,
to the movies now?
It's like times like these where I wish that you and I lived closer to each other, because it would just be like, hey, you want to go see Spider-Man? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
happen. Jess, I'll drive to upstate New York right now. Here
All
I
right.
come.
All right.
Getting in my car.
I'll be ready.
I'll,
I'll be ready.
I'll be there in multiple hours. Like
Okay. Sounds good. If
oh,
only.
I know.
But yeah,
What are we missing? I feel like we're missing some bigger stuff too.
um well, there is, oh, so I do want to say I am a little disappointed with Flash's storyline in the movie.
Yeah, he had like 2 minutes of screen time. What
I
the
know.
heck?
I know. Like,
so mad.
so I get it. They wanted to start the movie like immediately, like right into the action, but following the pattern of like the last two movies, it should have started with something like multi I want to say multimedia, but I don't think that's the right word. Like, so the first movie started with like the vlog. The second one started with the PowerPoint presentation, you know, the in memoriam. I was like so convinced that this movie was going to start with Flash doing a live stream because they made like this whole thing in Far From Home about how he has his like flash mob or whatever, his fans and followers on the internet. So I thought for sure it was going to be him like live streaming his reaction to this, and instead it was just like him on TikTok, I'm assuming, because it looked like TikTok,
which by the way,
yeah, I'm like, okay, TikTok, how much did you invest? Like, did you
but
finance this movie or something?
Think that we are canon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, because the Daily Bugle is on TikTok.
That's true.
Which means that we exist.
That's right. That's right. So like our content is just us like making content of like real people in the world.
So I just make some and Peter probably watches them and is like,
Peter probably follows you. Peter totally follows you.
He follows our, like, he's listening to this podcast right now. Like,
yes. So in the MCU, your username was originally female Spider-Man, but then when the Bugle revealed his identity, you changed it to female Peter Parker.
And then when they did the spell again, it went back to female
Spider-Man. I love it.
Wow. Guys, this just got so meta.
It really did. It really did.
But then does that mean like ads exist? Like, does the TikTok ad of Spider-Man the movie exist on TikTok in the MCU? Like, what is, like, Peter's like, that's me, that's my movie, and that's the ad, and that's like, and we're on TikTok.
So it's like my series, Avengers watching the movies.
Yes.
Combined with so then TikTok made that ad of like all those TikTok creators, and it's part of like the MCU's Marvel Studios advertising. Spider-Man No Way Home. God. All because Tony didn't want to finance the Avengers anymore and decided to sell the rights to their life stories.
He was like, I hate this. Here, give me $1 billion and I'll tell you everything you need to know about Natasha Romanoff. And that's just like,
oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Well, it'll be interesting just thinking about like, you know, all of this meta stuff, like when Deadpool 3 finally comes out, like how that's gonna work, because Deadpool 3 is confirmed and we know it's Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Feige have been talking and working together on this. So I'm just really excited to see like how they handle like all the meta aspects of it, like if Deadpool's gonna make jokes about Disney buying the rights to him and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and everything, or if he's gonna just like I don't know, like
he'll be like in the movie, like, I'm legally allowed to talk about Spider-Man now because I won't be sued if I say his name because Disney bought the rights to me.
That's right. Well, so because then that leads into another question, like, will Spider-Man and Deadpool ever interact? Like, will Team Red, which is Deadpool, Spider-Man, and Daredevil, will they ever interact? Considering like we have all three of them now in like the official MCU, like, which would be amazing. It would be so amazing.
Get us a Deadpool Spidey buddy cop film right now.
Oh my god, please. please. Oh my God. Yeah. It'll be
Oh my
interesting to
God.
see how they move forward, like with Spider-Man and everything, but also just like with the multiverse in general. I feel like I have more
Yes,
questions
I
about
agree.
about the multiverse now than I did before this movie came out. Especially considering like
Yeah.
how it was just so easy for Strange to fix, going back to like what we were saying before, how it was so easy for him to fix the whole like multiverse, like colliding, like all the people coming through. Like if all it takes is just one memory spell, then like what's the deal in Multiverse of Madness then?
Right? Yeah. My other thought was too, like in that end credit scene when
Mhm.
they were like, was that like the same Strange from What If that like
I think
ate all
so.
of the monsters? Like
Yes.
I
So,
was
okay,
like,
I'm really
whoa.
happy you brought that up. I'm really happy you brought that up. So, because we know What If is canon to the MCU, and Benedict Cumberbatch is one of the actors who actually voiced his animated character.
Mhm.
So, I'm convinced that that's going to be like Supreme Strange or whatever it is that we're calling him on the socials. I'm convinced that that like darker, like he almost looked like slightly gaunt too, like
Yeah.
just like shadows under his eyes and everything. Like he's definitely like the What If, like Supreme Doctor Strange. And I'm like, okay, so the last time a Doctor Strange fought that guy, he got his butt kicked and was like absorbed into Supreme Strange. I'm like, okay, this is not like I thought, and a lot of people I'm pretty sure thought that like Wanda was supposed to be the villain in this
I thought
movie.
so too.
So I
And
was
now
like,
I'm not
okay,
thinking that at all. Like,
no,
which is
no.
interesting. Like, which makes me happy because I was like, Wanda's been through so much. She deserves to just be like, I'm here to help, like, like instead of having more people hate her. I mean, there's still a chance she could turn. Like,
Yeah.
the Supreme Strange guy could be like, Wanda, you're on the wrong side. And she could be
Yeah.
like, you're
You
so
don't
right. Let's team
understand
up.
the
Like,
power of the dark side.
yeah.
Join me.
Join
That's
me and together we can rule the galaxy.
we could rule the multiverse.
We can rule the multiverse.
Yes, definitely. I can see that happening. Especially if like she's tempted with the idea of like getting her kids back, getting Vision, her brother back. Could definitely still
Mm,
turn to the dark side. I feel like, and okay, let me gather my thoughts real quick. I feel like people who have like nothing to lose tend to be like the most dangerous, right? And we saw
that's very
that
true.
in Spider-Man No Way Home at the end when Peter just like almost went like completely dark side. Like it reminded me a little bit of the scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke is fighting Darth Vader and he like, basically is just like pummeling Darth Vader to the point he like chops Darth Vader's hand off.
Mm.
And when he's fighting Norman Osborn, like he's just hitting him like and really hard too, like nonstop. And you can see like the murderous intent in his eyes to the point where he picks up the glider and is like prepared to stab Norman Osborn. So I don't know. I doubt that they're gonna like pursue that storyline at all with Peter Parker. They who knows, they might if they end up doing like a Tom Holland Venom movie. But just thinking about like that, I wonder if that's like a pattern or a trend that Marvel will explore with Wanda as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. Going back to No Way Home here for a second, I
Mm-hmm.
literally like for like 20 seconds thought that they killed off Toby. Like I was like, oh my
Yes.
god. Like he got stabbed and I was like, see ya. Especially because I remember like a lot of people were thinking that that was going to happen and then that was going to be how they like brought Miles in, was because like
Okay.
when like doesn't like, because that's how Miles becomes Spider-Man, right? Like
In
Peter dies and then he takes the
Yeah.
mantle. And like I just remember hearing like people saying that if Tobey and Andrew were in it, one of them would be the sacrificial Spider-Man basically, and they'd die off
Right.
and then like that's how Miles would take the place, or not even bringing Miles in, just like there would be a sacrificial
Yes.
Spider-Man, basically, like, or
The
like
sacrificial
Toby's way of
Spidey.
being like, yes, or like even Toby's way of being like, I am old, please get like Harrison Ford and like
Yes.
The Force Awakens was just like,
Yes.
I'm done. Like I will do
I'm
this
done.
movie, but
Yeah.
then kill me off and I'm not coming back. Like
Cut my check, kill me off. Let's do this.
yep.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because especially thinking to like how Toby's Peter was kind of taking on more of a mentor role for the other two, like, encouraging Andrew's Toby and like trying, talking to Tom's Peter. I feel like I'm saying a bunch of names and I'm like losing track of what I'm saying.
You're like Peter, Toby, Andrew, Peter,
Toby,
Peter
Andrew,
1, Peter
Peter
3.
2. Yes. Okay. Let me try that again. Okay. So Toby, like definitely Toby's Peter Parker, definitely taking like a mentor type approach. Like he's trying to encourage Andrew's Peter Parker. And when he's talking to Tom's Peter Parker, he's like, I chased this guy who like I thought was responsible, and anger isn't the answer, blah blah blah. And yes, Andrew's Peter is also like giving Tom's Peter advice, but you definitely see more of that coming from Toby's Peter Parker. So it would make sense that like, especially like you said, he's the oldest, so it would make sense if he's like the one that they like killed off. Especially because when Toby walks through the portal, my mom just whispered like under her breath, he's so old.
I was like, I hate to say it at Toby, I'm sorry, but like he did walk out and I was like, I think it's because I just recently rewatched the Toby Spider-Mans to prep for this movie. So like seeing him so young and then seeing him like that, I was like, yeah, he is up there now. Like he is getting older, and
it's like almost 20 years have gone by since his no, not at all. Not at all. Especially like when you think it almost like 2 decades have gone by since his trilogy came out, and he's still there, and you could see so too true. Like he was so happy to be there, like that just came through for both of them. I feel like for both of them, especially at the end when like all three of them hug, which I was like, oh my god, that's so precious. Like you could tell like they were all just so genuinely happy to be there and be doing that with each other. And I hope that we do get like a proper live action Spider-Verse movie, like that is that they can all come back. I think that would be really great, and it looks like they really want to be there, which of course they would. Why not? And they get to be Spider-Man, and they get to be Spider-Man together. But I'm glad that they didn't kill him off, because I that would have been like too much for me. I was like, you already took Aunt May, you can't take Toby's Peter too. Like you can't do it. And I will say again, when they stabbed him, my brain immediately went, oh my god, they killed Toby. You bastards.
Toby.
You bastards.
Yeah, it was very like he was just there, and then I just loved, oh yeah, it's fine, I've been stabbed many times before. It's just like, what?
And Andrew's like, you're in so much pain right now, aren't you? Oh, it's so bad.
Oh, it hurts so much.
It hurts so much. That's what he says. But can I also just say like how I don't even know what the right word is. I was just like so in awe and like happy when they showed the parallel, like in his trilogy, Toby's Norman Osborn dies because Norman tries to stab him with his glider and he avoids it, and Norman Osborn stabs himself instead and he dies, boohoo. And is like this time like he actually like actively saves his Norman Osborn. And we know, if you watch the original trilogy, that becomes like a whole thing that Harry Osborn blames Spider-Man for killing his father. So it was like really kind of cool that he got to like save his best friend's father like in that moment, only to be stabbed by him immediately afterwards. But I'm really glad like both Toby and Andrew's Peter Parkers had an opportunity to kind of protect Tom's Peter Parker in some way. So for Andrew, it was saving MJ the way he couldn't save Gwen Stacy, because he knows how much losing the girl that he loves destroyed him. So he, tries to save Tom's Peter from that pain. And then with, Andrew, he knows, not Andrew, Toby. I'm doing it again. I feel like I'm mixing up all the names.
Many.
There's too many. There's too many names. Then with Tobey's Peter Parker, he knows that if Tom's Peter kills Norman Osborn, that's gonna like haunt him for the rest of his life. He's never gonna be able to live with himself, and he stops him from doing it, basically saving Tom's Peter from himself. Mm-hmm. And I love how it's, even though this is like the last of Tom's trilogy, if you know whether or not he has a second trilogy, I feel like in that moment, that end, last 20 minutes or so, it was as if Tobey and Andrew were like officially handing the mantle over to Tom. And I don't know if you got that feeling as well, especially because at the end when Tom was like, thank you both so much, I feel like that was more like Tom thanking them for making all of this possible for him, like thanking them for being the first Spider-Man and for, participating in this and like making this such a big movie. And, just kind of, you get the vibe that they were like just very supportive of him throughout the process. And I feel like it was both the actors and the characters like handing off the role of Spider-Man over to Tom and Peter Parker in the MCU.
It's so true. Like you can definitely hear the real life vibes of that, like of Tom thanking the two of them. And like I know in past interviews, like Tom has talked about like speaking with Andrew about it, and he was like saying like there weren't any hard feelings about like him being recasted and like all this other stuff. And like I felt like this was really like an opportunity for like Andrew to say goodbye to the character. Mm-hmm. Like because he never had that third movie that was like clearly set up to happen, and then they never did it, and then like, and also just like having this connection with Tom, and like like it's just so, and you can see it, like there's that one picture that was going around Twitter a couple weeks ago, the two of them hugging, and it's like so like you can just tell they're so like happy for each other, and they're so supportive, and like just you're so right. You can hear like how thankful he is in that scene, really.
It felt like the same way I felt like the Avengers kneeling to like pay their respects to Tony Stark was like more like Marvel paying homage to Robert Downey Jr. was how I felt about Tom's Peter thanking the other two Peters. It was very more like a real life sort of meta thing going on, and I totally respect their decision to keep it in. I think it was definitely needed, both for the story itself, but also for the fans. Because then I feel like it was also like their way of of the studios trying to be like, you guys, stop arguing about who the best Spider-Man is or who the best Peter Parker is. Like they all gave their like 100% to their roles. And obviously they don't have any mixed feelings about it. They even like went as far as to like change like Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. Like it would have been so easy for them to go like an order of like, theatrical release or an order of like supposed popularity, but it wasn't even like a thing about like who was better or more important than the others.
No, I agree. And it was like, and then they like switched it too, like it was like who's Peter what, like then they just switched it around, like like, which I liked too. Also a little side note, I just remembered this. I don't know if you noticed this, or maybe I'm making it up in my brain, but you know how everyone called Tom's Peter like Iron Man Jr.?
Yes.
They used that in like one of the newscasts in the beginning of the like, I remember, but I feel like I've seen it so much on TikTok and stuff that I didn't process it until after the movie, and then I was in a second, they just took everything that people were saying about him and just putting it into
so the whole thing, that whole scene where they're like the two younger Peters are like talking to Tobey and being like, so like that stuff like just comes out of you. Like I feel like I've seen that so many times on like Tumblr and Instagram and TikTok. It's like all that was missing was the pointing meme. That was the only thing missing. It's like what? I feel like there's a lot of inspiration from the fans in this movie.
There so was. Also, complete sidetrack, but when they were all disappearing at the end to go back to their universes, and Andrew did his little, I was like, that's so adorable. He was just like, bye.
Like, bye. And I think Tobey does it like at the last second too.
Yeah, he's like,
but like he's already like halfway disappeared by the time he like lifts up his hand. But yeah, it was literally Andrew's Peter was like the most awkward out of all of them. And I love him so much for it.
I do too.
Like he felt to me what Peter Parker was in Infinity War, or like not even like in Civil War. Like Peter Parker in Civil War, that's how I felt like Andrew was. He's just so happy to be there and be included.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a Spider-Man.
It's like, I always wanted brothers. Guys, I just want to say I love you.
Knows them for 5 minutes.
I know. You're like, thank you. Like, okay.
Wow. I know.
Yeah.
This movie is like such a whirlwind of just so many things happens that yeah.
Is it's just such a good movie, and I genuinely hope that people who haven't seen it yet do get to see it without any spoilers, because it really is just such a good experience if you go in like not knowing, all of these things that end up happening. And there hasn't really been a movie for me, like I guess since Endgame, which isn't that long, which is like 4 Marvel movies ago, but it's still, it's a few years back. It feels like it's been forever, especially with the pandemic and everything. There hasn't really been a movie since Infinity War or Endgame that spoilers were so important, and it made such an impact to the movie. And it's just such a good movie. It really is. Like, I know we were like nitpicking it a little bit earlier on, but it's, at the end of the day, like it's so well done. It had the potential to be kind of like a Batman versus Superman, but there's just so much packed into it and not enough time, focusing on specific things, especially when you consider like all of the characters. There's a lot of characters in this movie.
There are.
And, and they handled it in such a way that even if you hadn't seen the other movies, you still had an idea of what was going on. But they didn't spend too much time like explaining the backstories, just enough so that you understand like, oh, that's the connection with these characters, or that's why this character is the way they are, or whatever. But it really had the potential to just kind of like fall apart because there's just too much going on, but they executed it so well.
It was so well done. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I will say though, a small part of me like sometimes wishes that there weren't so many theories around this movie, because I feel like I would have been that extra bit of excited when Tobey and Andrew came on. Like I felt like it was expected. So when it happened, like I was still stoked. Like don't get me wrong, like I was in the theater like, oh my God. But I also feel like if we had gone in completely blind and didn't know anything about this film and then that happened, I would have been like,
oh God. Like, no, I hear what you're saying. Like you were excited, but it was more like a relieved kind of excited. At least that was what it was for me. I was excited, but it was more like relieved. Whereas if we hadn't known anything at all, it would have been more like a surprise excitement, which is definitely more exciting than a relieved exciting or relieved.
Like it would have been like a Cap and Mjolnir moment, like we were not expecting that.
No.
It was like,
no, yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, I will say though, like, considering how many leaks there were, I think there was still enough to surprise us in this movie. And Sony themselves like made the effort. Sony and Marvel made the effort to like not reveal anything in the trailers, because that's one thing that's kind of been a pattern for Marvel in the past, that they'll reveal characters showing up in their trailers. And I get it, for like Civil War, for example, showing Spider-Man, like I get it. It's the first time the character's showing up. You want to create hype and everything. But imagine the reactions if nobody knew Spider-Man was going to show up in this movie.
Yeah.
Or like nobody knew when he was going to show up. Like if, obviously when Tony goes to Queens and meets Peter Parker, like, oh, you're like, oh my God, it's Spider-Man. But his entrance as Spider-Man in the suit would have been like a totally different thing. And then in Ant-Man, they gave away that Falcon was going to be in the movie. And it's like, we didn't need to know he was going to be in the movie. That could have been such a great surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
But so considering like, past history, I feel like they handled the trailers very well, with Matt Murdock, with the other Spider-Man, it, they did the best that they could considering what a huge project this was.
I agree. Yeah, it must have been so hard. I just keep thinking back to all of Andrew's interviews where he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not in that. I'm not in this movie. Like, can we just talk about Tick Tick Boom, please? Like,
Can we talk about something else, please? Like, I'm just picturing like the Marvel executive standing behind the camera,
like
don't give anything away.
it's like the interview recently with Haley and Kevin, and they were like, "Is there going to be a Young Avengers?" And Haley just goes,
she looks at him like
looks back at him.
But the thing is, he looks at her like with his eyes, like don't say anything.
You're even giving it away just by looking at me. Like,
the thing is too, like when they did the interview where they confirmed, by they I mean Kevin Feige and oh my god, her name totally is Amy Pascal. When they did the interview where they confirmed essentially that Charlie Cox was going to come back as Daredevil, when Kevin Feige says, where we see him, when we see him, and Amy Pascal just starts cackling. She starts laughing, and Kevin Feige kind of does like this expression.
Why are you like this?
He's like, oh god, you just gave it away.
Aww.
Kevin Feige works so hard to keep these secrets, but everyone around him is just blowing it.
So bad at keeping secrets.
He tries. Yeah. Oh gosh. But at the end of the day, it was still a really great experience. It's such a good movie, and
it was. I'm so glad.
I'm very interested to see how Multiverse of Madness plays out, how Hawkeye episode 6 is going to play out, if the whole theory that it somehow connects to Spider-Man because of when episode 5 and 6 come out, bookending Spider-Man No Way Home, and also just like if they're going to surprise us with any new projects between the beginning of 2022, right? Yeah, 2022 to like when Multiverse of Madness comes out in May. Because that's a good chunk of time with no new content as far as we know. So I don't know. Maybe they'll drop Miss Marvel. Maybe they'll. Who knows? Who knows?
There's so much that could happen. I'm like
so
excited.
I'll say this. Like, I had this theory that because of how big we all expected Spider-Man No Way Home to be, that they were going to surprise us at the very end of the movie with a trailer for a secret part 2 of this movie. Because I was thinking they pushed the release date of Multiverse of Madness down. They basically pushed the whole slate down by one movie. So the March release date was open. It didn't have anything there. I was like, that's really weird that they would decide to do that. And how big we consider this movie to be. And then I was thinking back, like my movie history trivia, when Back to the Future 2 came out, nobody knew that they had filmed Back to the Future 2 and 3 back to back. So at the end of Back to the Future 2, they immediately played the trailer for the third movie, and they did that in theaters, and everybody's like, wait, what? So I was like, it would be amazing if out of nowhere, with this was like the top secret thing they were trying to keep from all of us, is if Spider-Man No Way Home ended on like a cliffhanger and we're like, wait, what just happened? And then they play a trailer for like the secret part 2 or something that was going to come out in March, and that's why they pushed all the other movies back. It was a bit of a pipe dream. I was kind of right, because they did show a trailer for another movie,
which they haven't done since the first Avenger, which I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, okay, I was 12% right, I guess.
12% at the moment.
12%. Yeah. But again, that would have been only if they were gonna like randomly introduce Miles. I feel like that's the only way that they could have done a part 2, because there was like, the movie works, it was well paced, there was no need to add or subtract anything from it. Like, it hit all the beats it needed to. Like I said before, it didn't feel rushed or overpacked at all.
Yeah, no, I loved it. So like, again, I know we were nitpicking for like the last hour, but wow, just like, I literally cannot wait to go and watch this movie again. Like, I don't even know when it's gonna be, but I'm like
Yeah.
already looking forward to seeing it a second time, maybe a third time. I'm gonna buy it as soon as they release it. Like I'm
Yes.
so excited.
Yeah. I need to, because that's the thing. I need to be able to watch it and like be able to pause and like rewind at certain points just so I
Yes.
can like catch certain details. I can't tell you how many times in the theater I was like, I need to rewind. I need to
I was like,
rewind.
wait.
I need to see that again.
Yes.
Yeah. No, definitely a movie to watch several times if possible. That's it for this episode of the Fandom Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you, Jess, for joining us again. It is always such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me talk about one of my favorite characters. It's always a pleasure,
Of
Catherine.
course,
Love
of
hanging out with
course.
you.
Yes, love hanging out with you as always. You guys, if you're not following Jess yet on Instagram or TikTok, you definitely should. Her links to her social media accounts will be linked in the bio/description box, depending where you're listening and or watching us. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.